Welcome back to WD.
FM, the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. We're your hosts, Bri Bertolacini, Content and Research Manager.
And Chris Mullen, Senior Marketing and Editorial Specialist at the Walt Disney Family Museum.
Today, we'll be going into detail on our latest special exhibition, Mary Blair, Mid-Century Magic. Now, Mary Blair, a visionary artist, storyteller, and designer, was one of the most influential figures at the Walt Disney Studios throughout the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And her vibrant, whimsical style left a lasting mark on mid-century American art and animation. She was a versatile artist who explored numerous mediums, including watercolor, pencil and ink, collage, and ceramic.
And later in her career, she worked with Walt Disney on theme park attractions and art installations that showcased the colors and imaginative composition of her distinct style. Animators at the studio valued her for giving films a unifying design, childlike wonder, and emotional tone, and Walt was known to challenge artists to bring Mary's influence into the films. It is in the same spirit that the museum presents this exhibition with the hope of inspiring newfound appreciation for her art in today's audiences. Now, Bri, we've had a chance to kind of look at the layout and see all the pieces up. What would you say is your favorite piece in the exhibition?
Well, I love this exhibition so much. I think we've talked about it on a previous podcast that we both got to see the original exhibition that this is taken from and kind of readapted into this new space. Now, the last exhibition, Magic Colored Flair, The World of Mary Blair, was held in our Diane Disney Miller exhibition hall. And this one, Mary Blair Mid-Century Magic, is in our lower lobby and theater galleries. And I really love the incredible artwork that we have in our collection by Mary Blair. So it's always a treat just to see it back in our gallery spaces. My favorites are her different interpretations of the facade of It's a Small World. That is one of my favorite attractions. And one of the ones that really stands out is the one where she used different colored cellophane to collage some of the basic shapes of the facade. And it looks so simple and yet does such an effective job conveying the whimsical nature she was trying to capture. So this is something you see throughout her work in this exhibition, that her work looks so effortless, yet so purposeful. I also just love the concept works that she did for Cinderella. There's artworks that illustrate the scene of Cinderella hard at work cleaning, and it captures that monotonous feeling, and it's represented in her work as just a row of Cinderellas walking. And there's just a surrealist quality to these artworks that is just so fun to see. And then all the concept works from this film just really shine. And you can just see how animators adapted her color palette to the film from these concept artworks.
That's a really great choice. Mine is kind of a tie, and with your great breakdown of the Cinderella concept arts, one of the artworks that really spoke to me was the concept art of Neverland for Peter Pan. Seeing kind of the space of it all and all the colors that you really see when they first approach Neverland, when the kids are flying in. All the colors that are going on in the film are really well established by the concept art. It's really cool. The other piece that I really like are the sketches of the Tomorrowland facades. Both of the Tomorrowland facades and the concept artwork from Peter Pan showcase Mary's whimsical and very distinctly mid-century design sense, as well as her unreal mastery of color. And it's no wonder why, according to Mary herself, quote, "Walt said that I knew about colors he had never heard of," end quote, which is such a great quote.
I know. I love this quote so much. And I do have an honorable mention. It wouldn't be us if we didn't have honorable mentions. Uh, we have Mary's art desk back installed in our lower lobby. This used to be a fixture right underneath the stairs for so many years, no matter what exhibition we had in that lower lobby and theater galleries. We always were able to see Mary Blair's art station. So it is so cool to have that back. So really, really loving that. Do you have any honorable mentions you would like to mention?
Well, honorable mention that sticks out to me is one that's not on display currently, but Mary's hard hat that would also usually be set up with her desk. Really cute and very her. It's an honorable mention because you can't see it, but it was on display for quite some time downstairs, and I'm sure that we'll be able to highlight it at some point in the future. Maybe it'll get rotated out again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, let's start at the beginning of Mary Blair's life and kind of get into a little bit about who Mary Blair was. Now, at the very beginning, she was known as Mary Robinson, and she was born in McAlester, Oklahoma in 1911, and she spent her childhood in Morgan Hill, California. From a young age, she showed a passion for art and was encouraged by her parents to develop her talents, dedicating her free time to painting. Now, in 1929, she enrolled at San Jose State Teachers College, now San Jose State University, studying fine arts with the intention of becoming an art teacher. On campus, she served as the art editor of multiple student publications, including La Torre, the annual yearbook, and Quill, a literary journal published by the English department. Her work as a student did not go unnoticed. After exhibiting a charcoal still life at the 1931 Pacific Art Association convention in Fresno, she was offered a full scholarship to Los Angeles' Chouinard Art Institute. Now, at Chouinard, Mary met her future husband, Lee Blair, a fellow scholarship student and watercolor painter. They were married March 3rd, 1934. And for the next several years, the Blairs exhibited their work together and independently. However, the Blairs realized they could not live on a modest income from watercolor painting alone. So Lee would join the Walt Disney Studios in 1938 in the layout and story department. And at his insistence, Mary Blair joined him at the studio in 1940.
Love those early threads that connect Mary Blair's story to the Bay Area with Morgan Hill and San Jose State, and just how even though she was born in Oklahoma, California was always calling, and of course the ties to Chouinard Art Institute, and all the many ways that Chouinard weaves in through Walt and the company's history. It's just a perfect coincidence that that's kind of how we get Mary Blair. Mary Blair's most continuous period of creative collaboration with Walt Disney took place between 1940 and 1953. The years around World War II were difficult at Walt's film studio for many reasons we have discussed on the podcast already, from an animator strike in 1941 to the financial challenges imposed by a wartime economy. Nonetheless, this era ended with the studio's return to profitable filmmaking with several well-received animated features in the 1950s. It was then that Mary, with her vibrantly colorful art and whimsical compositions, cemented a place among the studio's most important artistic influences. To some degree, a career in commercial or entertainment studio animation was not what Mary and her husband Lee Blair had imagined doing with their training in fine art painting. Mary found the work at the studio, quote, interesting, but not enough to sidetrack my first ambition, so I quit in the summer of 1941, end quote. However, while the animators' strike unfolded, the U.S. government asked Walt to travel with a group of artists on a goodwill tour to South America. Mary approached Walt to join the group alongside her husband, Lee. Walt agreed, making Mary the only female artist to travel with the South America team. This globe-trotting trip would be a stroke of inspiration for Mary and make an indelible impact on her artistic style.
Mary Blair found her signature flair on the South America trip, which paid dividends for the studio and the artist herself. Walt and his artists returned to California with reference material, which Disney studio artists incorporated into two package features, Saludos Amigos and The Three Caballeros, and several short cartoons. Now, a strong relationship with the US government proved critical too, as the government's financial support helped to keep the studio doors open throughout the war. So, traveling with El Grupo, as Walt's entourage came to be known, Mary Blair entered Walt's inner circle of artists as he gained a greater appreciation for her work. At the same time, the trip itself introduced Mary Blair to new colors and cultures, themes that would inspire the rest of her career. Quote, from 1941 on, I felt I had found a place in the business, she said of this period. According to Walt's daughter, Diane, Mary, quote, really burst forth on her own on that trip. The color palette just really amazed Dad, end quote.
And Mary Blair's influence as a color stylist and art director is evident throughout the Walt Disney Studios' post-war output. The visual development and concept art she created influenced films as wide-ranging as Make Mine Music, Song of the South, Melody Time, So Dear to My Heart, and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Veteran animator and Disney legend Mark Davis shared, quote, Mary Blair brought a sense of modern art that was very lacking in the films up to that time, end quote. In many cases, this work replicated the model set out in the South America trip. Walt sent Mary Blair on research trips to Mexico, Cuba, Ireland, and the American South to find creative inspiration. At the same time, her unique aesthetic and eye for color proved a challenge for animators adapting her concepts to the medium of character animation. After Song of the South, animator turned director Wilfred Jackson explained, quote, "Walt gave me a real bad time, telling me how disappointed he was because I had failed to see to it that the feeling of Mary's styling sketches was incorporated in the cartoon sequences of that picture." End quote. Mark Davis recalled the challenge in similar terms, quote, "All the men that were there at Disney, their design was based on perspective. Mary did things on marvelous flat planes. Walt appreciated this and wanted to see this. But Walt, not being an artist himself, was never able to instruct the men on how to use this. It was tragic because she did things that were so marvelous and never got on the screen." End quote. But Walt loved Mary Blair's artwork. He displayed pieces of her art in his home, a gesture of respect that few Disney studio artists would achieve.
Now, with the war ending, Mary Blair's life outside of work rapidly became more complex. Her husband, Lee, was discharged from the Navy in 1946. Rather than return to animation, he decided instead to go into the new business of television advertising, founding the film graphics company in New York, which at that time was the epicenter of television. Living roughly 3,000 miles away from the studio would have posed a big problem for most artists, but Walt allowed Mary Blair to commute by airplane, the maybe like an early work from home situation. The Blairs moved to New York, eventually settling on Long Island, where they would raise two sons, Donovan and Kevin. Working primarily from home in New York, Mary Blair would develop the color and style for three films, which brought original feature animation back to the forefront of Disney animation. We have Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan. Recovering from World War II's financial impacts, Walt needed feature animation to bring in a profit. Since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, much of Disney's output had either been subsidized by the government or failed to return much at the box office. Animator Dick Humer recalled a meeting with artists working on Cinderella in which Walt explained, quote, "This is it. We're in a bad way. If this picture doesn't make money, we're going to be finished. The studio's going to be kaput," end quote. In this light, Walt placed a great deal of trust in Mary Blair to guide the visual development of the film. Fortunately for both of them, Cinderella was the fifth highest grossing film of 1950. The profits from its release and associated merchandise secured the continuation of the animation unit, setting the table for Mary to lead the visual development on Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan.
Then Mary parted ways with Walt for the second time in the early 1950s. At this time, as Walt's interests were expanding into live-action filmmaking, television, and, soon enough, theme parks, Mary's interests were expanding too. In 1953, she left the studio and embarked on an independent career. Moving on from Walt's studio did not diminish the intensity, scale, or rapidity of her work. Rather, she turned her creative attention, sense of dramatic composition, and eye for color to a wide range of subjects, including children's books illustrations, theater sets, advertising campaigns, and retail installations. Over a roughly decade-long period of independent work, Mary Blair's dynamic compositions and expressive colors would no longer need adapting to the medium of animation. Returning to print media, Mary produced illustrations for Pall Mall cigarettes, Meadow Gold dairies, Baker's Instant Chocolate, Bluebell clothing, Dutch Boy paints, Hanes underwear, and Team, a since discontinued soft drink. In the following decade, Walt would return to Mary Blair's life in dramatic fashion, kicking off a period of intense collaboration.
During the 1960s, Walt focused less of his attention on animation, with Disneyland Park, live-action films, television, and other endeavors taking up his time. In 1963, he was in the midst of developing 4 attractions for the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. One of these attractions, imagined as a celebration of the world's children, benefiting UNICEF, leading to a reunion between Walt and Mary. When Walt called her about It's a Small World, Mary Blair dropped everything and flew to Los Angeles to work on it. She called it, quote, "the most interesting job she ever had," end quote, and began mailing packages to California, packed to the brim with concept art. It's a Small World was a hit at the New York World's Fair, so popular that Walt decided Disneyland needed its own version. The resurgence of Mary Blair and Walt's working relationship delighted Walt, and he rapidly found other commissions for her in the new medium, ceramic tile murals. The first of these was an installation in the children's wing of UCLA's Jules Stein Eye Institute. Two more enormous mural projects followed soon after on Disney properties. One in Disneyland's Tomorrowland, and another planned for what would become Disney's contemporary resort at Walt Disney World in Florida.
After Walt's passing in 1966, Mary continued with her independent career. The Blairs relocated their family back to California before her passing in 1978. In 1991, she was the first woman to be honored posthumously as a Disney legend. Nearly 50 years after her death, interest in Mary Blair and her enchanting artworks continues to grow. Contemporary artists still find inspiration in her independent spirit, ability to survive in traditionally male-dominated fields, technical virtuosity, bottomless creative ingenuity, and powerful visual storytelling. Her bright color palette and whimsical design reflected who she was, and her art gives the viewer an insight on her optimistic view of the world.
And with that, that brings us to the end of this very whimsical episode. We hope you enjoyed this look into our latest special exhibition and inspires you to visit and see some of these iconic pieces firsthand, now through September 7th, 2025. Complementing the exhibition, enjoy the inspirational story of Mary's life and unique artistry style in a special screening of Mary Blair's Pigments of Imagination. The new featurette showcases works from the special exhibition paired with corresponding iconic Disney scenes, narrated by animation historian Mindy Johnson, and put together by people at the Walt Disney Family Museum, including yours truly. Mary Blair's Pigments of Imagination includes interviews with Disney artists and experts, along with home video footage of Mary never previously shared with the public. This featurette is free to view on all of our opening days. Sensory-friendly screenings will also be available at all 11 a.m. screenings that feature closed captioning and adjusted lighting.
Thanks for tuning in to WDFM, the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. Email us questions or comments at podcast@wdfmuseum.org.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all social channels at WDF Museum for all the latest updates.
Whatever century your magic originates from, keep moving forward.
Bye.
Bye.